in the interest of time, I'm just going to move like pretty quickly. What we're going to do over the next 30 minutes is give all of you who are making games some things from our experience on how we use generative AI to kind of speed up development, right? So we had actually a very busy, for a struggling business, we had an extremely busy, Q4 last year and Q1 this year. We released 2 games, which we're really proud of, 2 really cool games. And also consequently, we had a couple of key people that we lost on the team. So we had some skill gaps within the team also at that point in time, and you can't like get people like that really quickly, and then suddenly you're like, oh my God, how am I going to get this done? And at that point in the time, see, I've been actually toying on with generative AI for close to a year. It oddly began in the smoking lounge at Dubai airport, where I first, dabbled with the like generative AI, and I made a Batman comic in like 45 minutes on a mobile device, and that blew my mind. I was like, holy crap, this thing is like going to eat the world. And before it does that, maybe we can make some money out of it, right? So I started dabbling a lot in generative AI a while ago, and then kind of sort of wove it into my personal work habits. I use it for like a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff. And then I was actually pushing a lot of the people in the studio that, hey guys, we need to be using this thing, we need to be moving faster. And it took a little while, but then we kind of managed to get it into our work habits where it genuinely started benefiting us in our workflow in multiple ways, right? It's actually very versatile. And we're going to give you like a couple of use cases, but by no means are those the only use cases that you can use the tools available for. And even as I'm speaking now, the tools are getting better and better and better, right? So it's just a matter of considering that here's a really powerful Swiss Army knife kind of tool. And you might, whatever task you may want to throw at it, if it fails, it fails. That's fine. But you might want to get into the mindset of let's just try using a Gen AI tool to kind of speed this up, right? So what we'll do is we'll just take you through a couple of those use cases, and Pavithra will take you through most of that because I don't do any work. Pavithra does most of the work. So she's the better person to take you through most of it. I'll just take you through the first bit, and then we'll close out with some do's and don'ts. What Gen AI can't do for you, right? It's like Gen AI is not going to like you put in a prompt and it's going to spit out a game. I know that there are companies which claim that they're going to be able to do that, but that's bullshit. It's really far away. It's bullshit. Even the approach is nonsensical. If anyone here has invested in one of those companies, my apologies, but it's not going to work, guys. So not going to work with the present implementation, for due respect. I've not seen the roadmaps but okay, so we used it for like a couple of things, right? We used it for systems design, we used it for narrative design, we used it for art. So the first couple of spaces I'll take you through, we released a really cool game that we were really proud of a few months ago. We launched it at Chennai Comic Con. It was called Makkalin Mudalvar. It is possibly the first original Tamil game released in Tamil for a Tamil audience. It's available in Tamil and in English. It's a political strategy game. And it was an interesting design challenge, right? We had to create a game, a political strategy game. You can move to the next. We had to create a casual political strategy game, right? Where you create like something you play as the chief minister of a state, and you got to balance out the performance of the state and the values of or the principles based on which you govern in order to win elections, right? So you need to design a system that accounts for all of this, but we're not making Europa Universalis, right? We're not making Crusader Kings. We're not making like one of those mother spreadsheet total Warhammer type games in which you need to be a chartered accountant to like get through the tutorial, right? That's not what we're making. We're making a game for casual audiences with simple binary decision making, but with a layer of design complexity on top, which could it was a game with a learning outcome, right? We wanted to get people to understand certain political principles through gameplay. So we needed to create that system, and I can't share. I wish I could. I'll share the entire chat with you guys later on, but because of technical feasibility, we can't. But I'm going to say this is how we kind of used it, right? I just gave it a brief. If you just look at this, I'm not sure how many of you can read it, but I gave it a clear brief. And you need to be able to write a brief. GenAI cannot write the brief for, I mean, it could, but it's not going to do a great job. But if you give it a brief, I just say, hey, I'm designing a turn-based political strategy game, yada, yada. This is what it needs to do. I'm going to tell you some stuff, and you're going to help me with systems design, right? That's the prompt that I give. And then it goes, yeah, sure, I'm happy to do that. Unlike many of my other interns and junior designers, it's actually ready to go. So often people are like, you know what, can I do this tomorrow? I have a personal function to go to. You know what? I didn't get that response from the GenAI. One of the few good things about GenAI. One of the many good things about GenAI. Okay, so and then I gave the brief, right? If you see, players are presented with decisions, here's what stats are, here's what values are, so on and so forth. I just give it a broad description what's going on in my mind, right? Yeah, go on. Sorry, next one. This is the next one. Okay, fine. So now these are the questions. I said, hey, always standard practice with GenAI, right? Just say, hey, ask me any questions to clarify before you go on. I'm sure all of you here are familiar with that process. So it asks me some questions. How is the player presented with these decisions? Yada, yada. How does this work? And I just answer those questions. And then it just spits out some formulas for me, saying that here's how it should work. This is the weightage for stats. Here's the weightage for values. Here's the weightage for here's how you calculate anti-incumbency. All of this, right? And I wish I could share the entire chat with you. I have it. I can share it with you guys after the event. I can take you through the entire chat and show you how it designed it. So then I keep iterating on this, right? I say, hey, the formula sounds good, but can you give me a more weightage for these things, or I want to do this, I want to do that, and then it will fine tune. What it did is, based on my prompts, it created for me what the stats should be for a state, right? I said, hey, what are the 8 stats that Tamil Nadu state should have? And it gave me the stats also. It said it should be education, jobs, etc., yada, yada. What should be the values based on Dravidian principles? It gave me those as well. And I said, okay, these are the stats, these are the values. Can you spit out the formulas for me? How will the election outcome be calculated? I'm just giving it problems, and it's spitting out solutions for me. Once I finish all of that, I say, okay, give me this as a formatted game design document, and it'll spit it out. The whole process took me about 15 minutes. It would have taken a day with a standard int if I had written it. With an intern, 2 days, 3 days. It took me 15 minutes to spit out a document. Now, is that a final document that can be used? No. I have to tool it. I've got to go into the weeds of the document, check it, validate it if it's working and stuff like that. But it was actually fairly decent. If your game idea is simple, it's actually fairly decent, right? That's the kind of thing that for systems design, it can speed up your 0 to 0.9 really, really fast. We did a recent thing where, again, I think Geno said you're making tycoon games. Bro, even I like tycoon games. We are also making tycoon games. We're in competition now. But so I wanted to make we were making like a tycoon game, and we just gave it. I said, I'm making a tycoon game. Can you give me some economy, etc., etc. It was giving. Then after which, based on that, we tooled an economy on a whiteboard. Like actually wrote it down on a whiteboard, on 2 whiteboards. I can show you the chat. It's on my phone. And then I took pictures of the whiteboard, and I said, hey, listen, based on your document, we've kind of redesigned it. Here are the whiteboards. Take the information from the whiteboard and redesign your document with the new information, and it spat it out in 10 seconds. Bingo. Right? So for systems design, we're finding it like super useful. You can just now do your design on a whiteboard, take a picture and say, format this and give it to me as a document with tables, and it'll spit it out. It's remarkable what it can do. I highly recommend anybody here, even if you're a really good systems designer, this is going to save you a boatload of time, especially in documentation, like the nasty work of actually sitting down, putting the table. You want to be able to design at the speed of thought, right? And GenAI can really help you do that. So yeah, can we go on to the next one? Okay, I'll just kind of lead this in, and then I'll hand it over to Pavithra. The other attendant problem here is that, yeah, you got all of these systems, but what's the content that's going to sit on top of these systems and make the game compelling, right? What are the kind of decisions that a chief minister has to make? And a chief minister has to make all sorts of decisions that may not be interesting to a casual audience, right? Like, what brand of sunglasses should I wear today? No, kidding. Okay? But it's actually going to, you need to come up with, in this game, decisions that are interesting and simple for a casual audience, relevant in governance in Tamil Nadu state. You need to be able to take a decision, and that decision has to then give points to the relevant stats and values, and then give you the outcomes. Hey, I did this. Oh my God, because of that, this, guess what? People are writing, this what happened, -5 to this, +10 to that, and then influence the chances of election victory, right? And again, the GenAI was like incredibly useful for us to do that. So I'm just going to let Pavithra take you through some of that.
Thanks, Anand. Yeah, like someone mentioned, no, like Anand is our Mudalvar. So actually he made, like, the concept behind this game was, it is like the movie Mudalvan. How many of yareல்லாம் பார்த்திருக்கீங்க? How many of you don't know Tamil here? Don't know Tamil here? Okay. No, I can speak in Tamil and also translate in English, like how a lot of people did to me in Hindi. Yeah. A lot of people did that to me when I didn't know Hindi initially back then. So he actually made a game something like Mudalvan. So this Makkalin Mudalvar is a game where you role play as the chief minister, like how it's in the movie. You will be the chief minister of the state, and then what all you do in that day, in that session, becomes your chances of winning the election. So as taking from there, what we did was, we thought, how can we make content for this game? Because a chief minister is, it's like what he said, you don't ask like, hey, what do you want for lunch as a question to a chief minister. He gets like, there are a lot of questions which he'll have to answer. And apart from answering, there are a lot of thought process has to go into that. If I take this decision, will it affect the state's economy? Will it affect the education in the state? So for us to design that system, what we did was we told AI, hey AI, this is the system we explained to you and this is how you have designed it for us. So now these are all the categories in which we want the questions to be structured. So we just gave all that information to AI. Yeah. So we just gave all the information and said, hey, now we will also tell you a format. We want the game to have a question. We want the game to have options, and every option, whether I choose option A or option B, can it affect the different stats of the state? Can it affect the different values of the party? So we listed out all of this and we explained what is everything to AI. So when it means women's empowerment, what do we mean by women's empowerment? So we explained all of this to AI and we said, hey, here is a structure. This is how you have to give me the information. You can give it as a table, or for us, we said, give me a question, choice A, outcome, what all it will affect, choice B, outcome, what all it will affect, and it started making this for us. Guess what? This took us like hardly an hour of iteration, and it was able to generate like more than 50 decisions for us.
We needed about 100 decisions for the game. 100 decisions with 2 choices and different outcomes for each choice. That would have taken 2 weeks for a writer. It took us like 5 minutes. Chomp it out, right? Chomp it out, 5 minutes to generate it. After that, iteration time is the same, whether this one, but it saved me 2 weeks of work to go from 0 to 0.9, right? And it would have been the same time if it had been 1,000 decisions, guys. That's the scale. For 100 decisions, you might think, oh, it saved you 2 weeks, big deal. But imagine if I was making a game which had 1,000 decisions. It would have still taken only 5 minutes. There, it's saving you 2 months. Or a year, I don't know, right? Because in like 1,000 decisions, people are going to get tired. What do I write? Oh my God, I'm not getting any idea. So that's the kind of scale with which it can help you, especially as the volume of things that you need to do goes up, right?
Yeah, after that, of course, we had content people who were able to edit that information, do factual check, is this right? Can we surface it to the player? So all that post development of these decisions we were able to make. But the initial idea didn't, like, hardly took us an hour to come up with all these decisions. So that's how Gen AI helped us in making the content for the games. What we did is we just explained the concept, we trained it with the rules and limitations, and it was able to generate the content for us. First cut. Yeah?
But the important thing there is, again, to be able to give it the right brief. There you need a designer. You need to clearly define the constraints. You need to clearly say these are the rules, right? And but once you do that, it can just crank out stuff at, like, rocket speed at a huge cost to the environment. But we're not going to talk about that.
So after we made content, next we moved on to art. So this is, now I'm going to talk about a different game. So this is Harmony Heroes of Elephantia, where we wanted to make a game to solve the elephant, to build empathy. The problem statement was, hey, if there is a elephant-human conflict, we are facing a lot of issues. There were a bunch of elephant conservators who wanted to build a game to solve elephant-human conflict. Can we educate people? Can we educate players? Can we share more information about elephants in a playful way so that they know what is right and what is wrong to do in front of an elephant, or whenever they are interacting, wherever they are traveling, they know what is right and wrong. How can they build empathy towards an elephant? So this is Harmony Heroes of Elephantia, which is the second game in the tight schedule which we made. So for that, we started off with the concept. Yeah, okay. So this, before we go into details of how we did the art concept for Harmony, this is the generic structure which we followed. So what we did was, our art process had like 3 stages, where one was concept art. So what is going to be the concept for our game? How can the characters in that game be designed? The second is, how can that be rendered? What all we wanted, what is the specific style we wanted the game to look like, everything in the game.
Just to be clear, all these images are not from the same game. These are from a visual novel project that we're doing, and that one is from Makkalin Mudalvar. So
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with elephant conflict.
No, that's why I said, before I go into the details of that concept, this is the broad categories. So we said, like, hey, if I want to do rendering for the character concept which I made, well, for the next thing what we target is, what is the age group? Which age group of people should it appeal to? So that was our identifier in terms of rendering. And then we started off with the background. So this is the overall art process which we followed, and all of this was done in AI. So all this concept, rendering, everything we did in AI. And now we go to Harmony Heroes of Elephantia. So here what we said was, this is a prompt which we gave. There are more screenshots of like how the iterative process went. But before we go into the iterative process, this is how we were able to define the style. So we said, hey, are you able to read this? Yeah, okay. So we said, like, hey, I want an elephant. It has to look majestic. It should not look like a pitiable character. It should not, we didn't want an elephant to be victimized. So what we said is, don't make it look like a victim. Make it majestic, powerful. Okay, casual 2D, but make it like an elephant. Don't humanize the elephant. Do not make it like an elephant, like a human with an elephant head. Keep it, give it the life and like the breathe life into that elephant. Make it look like an elephant, 2D, big eyes, simple details, and make it look very powerful and mystical. So these were the prompts which we gave for the character concept generation. And from there, there was a lot of iteration and back and forth, but these are the concepts which we are able to pick from that.
No, and when we say a lot, I mean, we used AI, generative AI also for a lot of the stuff in Makkalin Mudalvar also, especially the intro sequence and all of that. But generally, it's like we go through like hundreds, like 500 pieces of art before we narrow it down. It's not like it spits it out and we just go with whatever. We've just put in a few here. But if you see the original chat, I just want people to be able to understand that it takes a lot. Because if you look at that, it's like elephant with like 2 trunks and some hideously mutated fallout elephants and stuff. But the rest of it is actually cool. We used a lot of that the ideation in the final design, right? But it takes a lot of iteration to get there, a lot of like, iterations on the prompt, regenerations, its mood on the day. With generative AI, you just never know. Suddenly it'll start flaking out and doing random things, right? So there's a lot of iterative work in places, especially in art.
Yeah, so after all that iteration, we picked certain styles. From the generated images, we said, hey, can you make the jewelry for the elephant like this? Can this be the final art style for that elephant? Can we keep the eye like this so that it looks majestic, it looks mystical, it looks wise? So different pieces, and then we said, hey, take this. I guess you are not able to see the ear patterns on this, but this specific iteration had a lot of ear patterns. So we said, hey, take this ear pattern, the design on the ears. Okay, so from there, then we went to the experts. We went to our art team, and we said, these are all the different pieces which we are able to generate, because at that time we didn't have an art director who could create a concept, and it is difficult to explain a concept from zero to a concept artist and get all this done in a day. But all this iteration, the style definition, everything, we were able to finish in a day and hand it over to our artist.
At that point, we didn't have really good designers on the team. We had good artists who can do finishing and rendering and all of that, but we didn't have anyone with strong character design strength, because that was a lack in our team. And this helped us, to some extent, fill that gap. It is possible that a proper professional character designer might have actually come with a better design, possibly, right? But this is competent, and it worked considering the budget and the constraints. It was a really low budget game. Our client was like, is a conservation organization, so they're not like flush with funds, and we wanted to kind of keep it low. Considering the cost, please try out the game. It came out looking really cool, and it's a really fun game to play. It's a game that we're super proud of.
Yeah, so from these line drawings, and then we said, based on the rendering benchmarks what we gave, the artists were able to do this. So these are the final characters which we went into the game, created by the artist, but all the direction and everything we got AI's help to finish it in a day. Yeah, you just have to come out. Next. So now these are the prompts which we gave. In the interest of time, what I'll do is I'll not read out the prompts, but I'll quickly take you through the iterative process. When we said, hey, create an elephant, this is what it made initially. It gave me this. It gave me human style elephant. It gave me tribal style elephant. So a lot of iteration process which we had to do before.
It's not even an elephant. I don't know what that is, but that's
It
like
is
a
an elephant.
vampiric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is an elephant in a different style. So we had to do a lot of iteration, which after that it landed here. Somewhat it looks like an elephant, right? So then we had to do further detailing here. So after this, we said, hey, now take this style. Okay, here is the elephant. So after this, we were like, yeah, this is decent. So now take this style and create more poses for me, create more line drawings for me. And then it made this.
You can actually ask it to give you expression sheets, character sheets.
We made the entire
sheets,
expression
even
sheets
walk
from this.
cycle and all. Now it's getting there. I think in another 6 months it might be able to give you like a usable walk cycle, right, and stuff like that. So you can just say, give me like a character sheet, give me like expressions like visual novel and stuff like that. It's doing a reasonable job of mocking that up quickly. It's not going to be finished usable art, but it's very, very decent to start off.
Yeah, it was able to create a wonderful rendering style for us. It landed right on point. We said, yeah. So because designers, we didn't know how to do art, okay? But when I saw this, I knew this is what I wanted for my game. So unless and until it was created, I didn't know. I had some identifiers, but I didn't know how to create that art. But once AI generated all of this, we knew where our game will land. So these are the chat. We'll share the presentation with everyone so that you can see how the prompts worked. The entire chat can be seen there. So that's the art process which we followed. So the next is how it saved our time. I would say in terms of art creation, it saved like 50% of the time what it would take. Because the concept generation.
Yeah, but 90% of the time in the pre-production
Yes.
stage, the production stays more or less the same, but pre-production is like 90%. So it's you're almost 30 kivinda you're in production.
Yeah. The game concept, art concept, background concept, everything we were able to generate hardly in a week's time. Hardly in a week's time. Everything, like including the GDD, art style, everything we finished.
Yeah, for which
Harmony.
elephant,
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah. So it saved 50% of the art asset creation in the production cycle. It saved 35% of the content pipeline. Why I'm saying 35% is AI generates all the content. Okay, but AI is unpredictable. So we will have to factual information needs to be looked out. Every content needs to be checked for information, whether it's right, whether it suits with the values which you wanted to, whether it positions the product correctly to the people, whether it positions the decisions which we wanted to land, like which we wanted to communicate to our audience. So all of that review process took us time.
No, and this is specifically for Makkalin Mudalvar, which has a
Yes.
lot of specificity in the content. It's not generic content, right? You got to write about Tamil Nadu, you got to write something fun, you got to write something about the A.R. Rahman concert that just happened and which everybody got stuck in traffic jam. Anybody else was stuck in that traffic jam? I was. So you got to write more specific stuff in jokes. That kind of thing AI is not going to be able to, unless you're white American, in which case you should be fine in that specific way. But otherwise, if it was generic content, if it was like, I don't know, like let's say a quiz or a standard vanilla cookie cutter RPG in which you wanted some dialogues, I would suspect that 35% would go up to 60, 65 easily.
This is specific to the type of game which you want to create, and that changes. No, with Harmony we didn't have any content at all. It was all of that was experiential game. They didn't have any content. So the content pipeline, there was no content pipeline. There was only art pipeline and game development pipeline and experience building pipeline. So it changes with every game, but overall across the two games, what it did is it reduced our overall production time by 40%. So both the games, both Makkalin Mudalvar and Harmony Heroes of Elephantia, we were able to finish and launch in like 6 months.
And that's just in terms of the time savings, right? But the point is, because it's cutting down a lot of that kind of work, you're able to focus your attention as designers on important gameplay problems that you want to solve. Both in Makkalin Mudalvar and in Harmony Heroes of Elephantia, we did so much playtesting and design problem solving with it. The game's just not fun, it sucks, the questions are too obvious, it's too easy, too difficult. We were able to spend time on actually fixing gameplay rather than worrying about things like content and stuff like that, which kind of just got done super quickly.
Yeah, which AI took care of. So the next is limitations. As I already mentioned, there are a bunch of limitations which you will right now which we'll have to work with AI. Which is the first thing is it's biased and unpredictable. You can't expect AI to generate 100% factual information or factual content, especially for the type of game which we were making. So there were a bunch of limitations. After it took a lot of iteration cycles. It took a lot of review process for us to go to the final content.
I mean, when I was creating the intro images for Makkalin Mudalvar, I was give me a crowd of young Indian people, whatever, yada yada, and put pottu on all the guys. For some reason that day decided that all the guys, if one guy here and there is wearing pottu, that's fine. It's like Satyaraj, it's okay. But Satyaraj wore pottu no in some movie, Kunguma pottu counter or something. Anyway, but if everybody is wearing pottu, it just looks weird. Now I say, hey, this is great. Make sure the men do not have bindi. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'll remove all the bindis. And now everyone has 2 bindis, right? No, I'm not even making this up. I'll show you the chart. Sometimes it just doesn't, it goes off the rails. And it's just frustrating. And I just kind of then let go. I said, you know what? Forget it. We're not going to talk today. And I tried the next day and it was much better, right? Because you know that it's unpredictable. It's not going to give you the same thing every time. So you're going to have to be able to kind of work with that. But the point is you can iterate so quickly and so fast, and the volume of iteration is so high that usually these things are just hiccups. They're not deal breakers. Sometimes they're deal breakers, then you just try another tool. We use multiple tools, by the way. We use a combination of Midjourney and DALI 3 on
ChatGPT,
GPT-4 and on
Copilot.
Copilot. We keep a bunch of subscriptions so that one day when this tool is being moody or that's giving better results, and we kind of mix it up, mix and match it that way.
So now rather than working on the emotions of the people, we have to work on the emotions of the AI.
Yeah, but I don't feel bad about it. No,
Correct.
I don't feel bad about hurting the
AI.
AI's emotion. I have to feel bad about hurting your feelings, but not the AI's. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is also another advantage of using AI. But the next thing, apart from content, what constraint it had was the art style initially what AI generates is very generic, and it doesn't have a style at all. It has no style.
Even in writing, so Lizzie used to hate its art because Lizzie's an artist. So our artist used to be like, it sucks for art, it's great for content. I'm like, it sucks for content and it's great for art. It's better than you at the thing that you're not good at, right? Which is fantastic, right? Because it can just help you, give you an arm up. But in general, it's not really world class at either. I would much rather have Nick Martinelli design my characters than have
If
ChatGPT.
we had the money.
Who? Nick Martinelli, we can take 1 or 2 favors. But, or I would much rather, one of us do the writing. I'd much rather Bhamini Lakshminarayan do the writing than ChatGPT. But when I don't have access to those folks, the AI does like a remarkably good job, right? Yeah, I think we're like out of time and out of slides.
Yeah, we are done.
Thank you.
I'm in the last slide.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the last slide which
Which we've already kind of,
Yeah.
mentioned. AI is a great starting point, guys. You're not going to get finished stuff out of Gen AI today, as it stands today, unless you're writing your resignation letter, there's a story about that. So there was this somebody I know who was on a Zoom call with his boss. And the boss was like, hey, did you use ChatGPT? And he said, yes. And you could show me the screen. And they were like, yes, here's my screen. And one of the other chats in history was resignation letter. Bad idea, guys. You really, guys, don't share your screen if you're using ChatGPT for resignation letters. But it's just a starting point, unless you're writing a resignation letter, in which case it can be a really fast endpoint. But remember, it's great to get you started, but you're going to still have to have solid creative chops to be able to finish the job. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. We'll be around if there is any questions. Feel free to reach out to us.